Obtaining mentors and a healthy support network may prove invaluable to achieving success or desired outcome in either personal or professional endeavors. Today, we will explore what to seek and also which pitfalls to avoid when evaluating which mentors or other individuals whose support you may enlist in your personal and professional development. I'm Clark Korb, a holistic health practitioner, offering some pragmatic insights to help you live a happier, more empowered life and embody your optimum potential. So, mentorship is a huge topic, and mentors, by definition, are both experienced and trusted advisors. And in the title of the video, Pillars and Pitfalls, I liked the idea not only for alliteration, but using the word pillar in this context as meaning someone who is regarded as reliably providing essential support for something. We often use this commonly as someone who is a pillar in the local community, as someone who supports that community. And so, why do we seek mentors? Well, anytime we're learning something new, sometimes there is a new skill being developed. There might be a new profession that we're entering into, or it might be part of an onboarding process in a new company for a new hire being shown the ropes to learn the corporate culture, the tools, the environment, that sort of thing. We may also seek mentorship for general personal development. That would be ongoing study for self-improvement or self-mastery. And in this case, we may have several specialists that we consider mentors for specific areas of life, like exercise or physical health, nutritional guidance, overall wellness in the realm of mental, emotional, spiritual health, or behavior modification, financial or investment mentorship. Or we might seek a mentor for relationships, how to become a better partner, a better parent, or a better colleague at work. And with this, there's typically a set of overlapping skills that would apply to each of them, but certainly the context for each is a little bit different. One of my mentors in business, that's also a good friend of mine, had recommended years ago to have at least 3 different types of mentors professionally. So this would be one for your specific type of technical work or trade or modality. For instance, since I'm a holistic health practitioner and I happen to be a body worker, having a mentor specifically in body work was helpful. A second mentor for your industry, so that doesn't have to be the same type of work, but certainly within the same industry. In this case, I wouldn't necessarily need a separate mentor in body work, but somebody in the wellness industry at large. And often it's actually better if it's someone who's not in the same specific trade, but for a diversity of perspective. One of my mentors was an acupuncturist. And a third mentor in the professional world would be someone for business in general, so even outside of your industry. Especially if you have your own business, having at least one or more entrepreneurs that you're studying for how to actually build a business, no matter what industry they're in. Very helpful to have these different types of mentors. There's also different types of access we have to mentors. So one can be a very direct access through personal coaching, whether it's calls and meetings. Maybe you've either have an informal or formal relationship as a mentorship with them, but having that direct one-on-one a type of access is amazing if you have it. Another form is if you're shadowing or interning at a place of business. So typically the understanding here is that you don't necessarily have a highly developed skill in the area that you are being hired for, or it might even be a free internship, but you're volunteering and you're learning by absorbing everything that you can absorb from that experience about the business or about the industry. The other type of direct access for mentoring is taking a live synchronous course. So this can be either in person or online, but I'm making the distinction here of a synchronous event, meaning something where you have at least access, if not one-on-one, you can submit questions, whether you're asking questions in a class or via an online seminar where you can ask questions and have some feedback directly from the mentor. There's also indirect forms of mentorship. And this is a one-to-many relationship where, as opposed to the synchronous class, this would be an asynchronous type of class, where you're taking an online course and it's self-paced and you go through it on your own. You don't have direct access to the mentor. Or perhaps you attend a live seminar and there's no ability to ask questions directly of the mentor, but you're still getting their content through a live seminar. Of course, there's reading books, periodical publications, or listening to podcasts, audiobooks, and YouTube channels from those whose advice you consider to be valuable and would put them in the category of mentorship. There are other types of support which I wouldn't put under the category of mentorship, but can also be very helpful. One is having an accountability partner or partners, and the purpose of this is simply to check in or verify whether you are on track with your stated commitments. And so the ability for this accountability partner to be able to troubleshoot or help you course correct is optional. The bare minimum requirement is just that they are a check-in point to hold you to account of what you said you wanted to achieve or commit to. just to have that distinction as an option is important, I think, because this can be someone who's a family member or a friend. And if it is a family member or a close friend, it's important to have a healthy boundary around the subject so that they can actually hold you to account. Sometimes that can be difficult if it's a partner, for example. It can also be fun to have it be someone who has absolutely no understanding of the subject content. In this case, like a friend or a child who has absolutely no idea what you're talking about. But if they have a reward for them linked to your goal or commitment, it's awesome in a way. Let's say, for example, you're trying to achieve a specific goal and you enlist the help of a niece or a nephew or someone, a friend of someone you know, and you set up a reward like taking them out to pizza or going to a movie or to Disneyland or something based on you're accomplishing a goal. The kid will remember that and they will hold you to it. So that's one of the best sort of accountability partners. They don't have to necessarily have a tie to any understanding of what you're doing, but it can be a fun way to link their reward to your performance, for example. This accountability partner can also have a dual functionality. It can be with the specialist who can help you course correct as an option. So an example of this would be a trainer at a gym who's not only providing you expertise with how to work out, they're also being an accountable presence for making you show up. Similarly, it can be a professional coach or a business coach who incorporates a check-in at whatever interval your coaching is. And if they are a coach, then they'll have tools also to help you evaluate and course correct as needed to keep you on track with your commitments. And the third category of support I would look at would be outside of mentorship and outside of accountability partners would be the idea of community or support groups. There are many different forms that this can take place. There are online forums that have been around for years across a wide variety of topics for hobbies, troubleshooting, how-tos. And in these forums, there can be a wealth of knowledge from peers with varying levels of expertise to help you make a buying decision about something or finding support for how to deal with a particular problem. There are also the in-person groups or communities, or sometimes called circles or wisdom circles. These can be topic specific. One example is for people that have ever needed support with addictions. There are groups and organizations that provide support for that. Or it can be something more general like wellness. And any of these local circles or communities are often hosted by one or maybe a small number of lead facilitators. These facilitators should qualify as mentors in the topic of interest. And if you're a potential participant looking to join one of these communities, it's really important to clarify your intention for joining. Are you seeking mentorship and looking to this group to kind of help you solve a problem or to guide you in this sense? If so, it's important to use the same criteria that you would for establishing a formal or even informal mentorship in doing so. And if you're not really seeking mentorship and wanting something more vague, like just emotional support, you can get into some muddy waters and there are some pitfalls to avoid, which brings me to my next topic. There are a number of pitfalls to avoid when you're seeking mentorship or support. And the biggest and most encompassing that I'll discuss here is a lack of discernment. So using discernment is essential when selecting any mentor, coach, community, or type of support group. It's important to critically evaluate the claims, the background, and overall veracity of the person whom you're considering enlisting their support or mentorship. In other words, what relevant background and experience does the person have? Has the person already accomplished what they are purporting to help you accomplish? What does your intuitive guidance say about learning from this person? Now, mentors are not perfect, nor do they need to be, but they must have more qualified experience than you do for the topic of interest at the time that you're seeking their mentorship. In other words, they have produced results, not just having had time served in the area of experience. They must also have an invested interest in your success, and this is really important. This may be in the rare case of personal interest where you have a family or friend mentoring you that just so happens to have the experience in the area you're seeking. It might be in a professional context where, for example, they might be your manager or project lead and your success helps them with their own ascension in the ranks. That's a positive, supportive mentorship relationship. Or you might have another professional relationship with them where you're just a paying client, like you're seeking a professional coach, and your success contributes to the mentor's professional branding. You might end up being a testimonial for their consultations or seminars or books or whatever the case is. In that case, they still have an investment in your success. You're either paying them directly or you're buying their materials. Another soft metric I would consider when you're using discernment is evaluating the energetic resonance of the person as a mentor or the group. So this isn't just a personality thing. It's more evaluating, do they feel authentic, using that your own intuitive sense of that? Are they excessively driven by their own agenda? Now, all coaches seek participants to be coached, just like all salespeople are looking for customers. But to do so with integrity means that they are a proper match to aligning to your needs, i.e., the one who's seeking mentorship. Another red flag to note in your discernment process is, does the potential mentor indicate signs of being insecure or threatened by others who achieve success? Do they tend to cut down or talk poorly about others who are perceived competitors? If so, it's likely that they have, or if they're leading a group, that they would contribute to a toxic culture. And this might be difficult to evaluate when you're on the outside of a group and just kind of kicking the tires to see whether it's a match for you. A lot of support groups, even if they're well intended, can attract both butterflies and moths, so to speak. It might be a haven for those rooted in victim consciousness or trauma bonding, or this can devolve into the formation of cliques, kind of like in the movie Mean Girls, where individuals may be singled out in a very unhealthy way. And in these support groups, even if the culture isn't toxic, if it's not particularly well run, it might be difficult to enforce accountability or distinguished sharing among participants without a rigid enough structure or proper training and experience by the facilitator or facilitators of the group to enforce that. Okay, outside of discernment, pitfall number 2 is using support as a crutch. And I talked on this a little bit in a video earlier on letting go with ease. And essentially, in this context, one way of identifying whether you're using your support or mentorship as a crutch is asking yourself honestly, are you abdicating your own personal responsibility to your support person or your mentor? If so, then this can degrade into kind of an enabling relationship where you're sort of staying stuck in the same pattern. And if you're working with a solid mentor or coach directly one-on-one, this can be something hopefully that they help you identify if they notice the mentorship degrading into that kind of relationship. And then pitfall number 3 is not recognizing the finite nature of the mentor and mentee relationship or the support group. So as with all relationships, and certainly applicable to mentorship, community, and support groups, there's a finite time of healthy utility. There are different needs for different times. We have different needs of expertise, different mentorship at different times in life. Think about going through school. We have different teachers at different grade levels that have different education and different abilities to help us learn or tackle the problems we're dealing with. In business, if you're a new hire, you would need a different kind of support from someone onboarding you and helping you learn company processes versus being someone who has decades of experience in a company or in an industry and being a C-suite level executive looking to improve your skills as coaching or leading a large organization. Similarly, a new parent would need a very different type of mentoring or coaching than an empty nester would need in terms of how to relate to their adult children. So aside from these categories where the different mentorship at different times of life may be obvious, what isn't necessarily so obvious is the fear of loss that people may have from their support community, so to speak. And that support may have run its course, and that sense of loss may cause one to stick with a group longer than is necessary or healthy. And reminds me of whoever established the quote that people are in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, with the latter being very rare, and it's certainly applicable to mentorship and support here. It's important to be willing to exit a group, a community, or a mentorship relationship if you find yourself discovering any of the above toxic or enabling elements as being part of the relationship. Think of it as graduation day for this phase of life, being able to let go of it and move on. I'm curious to know what mentors have been most helpful for you in your life, or possibly what areas of interest are you considering tapping into support or mentorship for yourself now? Let me know in the comments below. If you know of anyone who may benefit from what I've shared here, please forward this video to them. And if you found some value in what I've discussed today, I would most certainly appreciate your giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. It's free, it only takes a moment, and it really helps support the growth of the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in.